Alliance Live. Self-Management Fund, Resilience, Recovery and Development. What have we learnt? Mandy Williams, Volunteer Coordinator, Scottish Women's Autism Network.
Hello and welcome to my presentation. My name is Mandy and I work for SWAN, Scottish Women's Autism Network. SWAN is an autistic-led charity delivering services, information and support for and by autistic women and girls across Scotland, and we've been doing that since 2012, so we're over 10 years old now. SWAN is a place for autistic women and girls to understand themselves better, to connect with others and learn from and support one another without the stress of masking to fit in. All SWAN staff, including myself, and volunteers are autistic, and we work hard to make SWAN a safe, welcoming and stress-free place for autistic women and girls. So a little bit more about who I am and my role. As I said, my name is Mandy and I'm SWAN's volunteer coordinator. I recruit, train and develop volunteers for SWAN. My initial project, funded by the Alliance, was to recruit a team of volunteers who'd reply to emails and signpost services. However, coming out of lockdown, we found most emails were asking for more than information, but for information on in-person meetup groups. And we realised we also needed to recruit volunteer facilitators to run new groups alongside answering emails. So today, I'd like to take this opportunity to explain a little bit more about how we recruited and trained autistic volunteers. So what did we do? A lot of the courses I'd been on hadn't been designed for autistic women and people, but I found a course that was, and I went on it to learn how other courses did this, supporting different ways of learning. I researched the different teaching methods. For example, how did Open University support autistic students? We then stripped back the volunteer recruitment process, the training courses, and the learning resources to the point where we could redesign them for an autistic mindset. We then involved current volunteers in gaining feedback on handbooks and training courses. And after every training session, we asked for feedback via an anonymous online form and allowed this to shape how we presented the training. So firstly, I'd like to start with our recruitment process and how we changed the recruitment process. This was done initially through an introduction webinar where people could meet the SWAN team and ask questions. It was very informal and very relaxed. We then advertised through social media and our SWAN community. The application process was made as straightforward as possible, with an online form and all applications strictly applied to straight away, with a time frame for the next stages. This is key for autistic people, as we like to know where we stand and everything is in its ordered place. So it was very important that we did strictly stick to that timetable and met those expectations about when they would hear. We also developed roles around volunteers. If they didn't feel comfortable in the advertised role, such as a facilitator lead, we looked at volunteers who had other skills and how we could design those roles around them. One volunteer, for example, had amazing digital skills, and she now helps us develop our resources. The interview process, we stripped that back as well. They were very much done with the applicant in mind, so they could be over Zoom or on the phone. The applicant set the day and time that suited them best. So would they feel more comfortable in the morning or the afternoon or in the evening? We were super flexible to make sure we worked around that. Cameras could be on or off. We emailed the questions out that I was going to ask the week before, and we never deviated from them. So there was no surprises. People could prepare properly. The process was done to make it as relaxed as possible, and that was really important to us. A quick response and advise when that would be. So I would say, tomorrow, I'll let you know by this time, or how we're going to progress. Training. We totally redesigned the training. We redesigned a completely new handbook, and we emailed out a digital copy that people could use alongside posting a printed copy with a Costa Coffee voucher, so people could relax and enjoy and read the handbook prior to any training. We offered the training to be broken down into chunks that suited the individual. For example, if they preferred to do 4 times 30-minute sessions over a week, or 2 1-hour sessions over a few days, that was absolutely fine. Some people preferred to do a 2-hour block with a little break in the middle. As I said, not a problem. We worked around the actual volunteer. Again, like the interviews, it could be in the mornings or the afternoons or the evenings. I had one volunteer that liked to do the training at 8 in the morning and one that was better at 7 at night, and we worked around that. The volunteer very much led that training, and by that I mean we discussed the points that needed more time based on their skill sets. So I have some volunteers that have worked with safeguarding in their job for 20 years and are very skilled at that, but we could spend some more time looking at data protection, for example. Some volunteers needed more training, and opportunities were provided for advanced external training, such as advanced safeguarding online. We also looked at support for the actual roles as well. One example being an amazing volunteer who's dyslexic though, but wanted to work on some resource guides. So we organised a Grammarly Pro account for her to give her more confidence. I had another volunteer who was absolutely, again, amazing, but lacked a little bit of confidence when it came to doing some digital work. So we did a virtual office format, whereas I sat on Zoom while she sat on Zoom and answered emails, and we could talk to each other. We then very much focused on creating that SWAN team, which is really important to create that SWAN volunteer team. We very much use Slack to create a team message board, and people can share pictures of their pets, special interests, successes, what they've been up to, alongside actually peer supporting each other. We have monthly social meetups, which have been amazing, and they're a lovely safe space to relax, do crafts and chat about anything. You can bring your colouring in, your knitting, your sewing, anything at all, and peer support each other as volunteers. You could join for 5 minutes, you could stay for the whole hour, you could have your camera on or off, or message or speak up. It's entirely up to you, and it was such a lovely space that we have every month now that's very relaxed. I do regular check-ins with the volunteers, and these can be, again, in person, online or phone, however the volunteer feels more comfortable. And we issue out monthly volunteer newsletters, making sure they're aware of all the fantastic work that's being done at SWAN and the impact that they're having through volunteering, which is key. As I touched on at the beginning, feedback has been integral to the work we do, and that feedback loop is so important. Constant feedback is encouraged through the digital feedback forms, which are completed by the volunteers after each training session. We worked with volunteers who were already enrolled in experience, and these volunteers helped us develop that training and content at the handbook, alongside discussing things like risk assessment, sign-in sheets. That loop is really, really important. And I was very much leaning on 2 very experienced volunteers at the beginning who had done work for SWAN before and taking their feedback on board with everything we did. And again, this continues when we bring on like new volunteers that have been enrolled for 6 months. They then help the volunteers that have been enrolled for a week, and it continues like that. So I'd like to read some of the volunteer comments, which made us realise that we were on the right tracks with everything we were doing. We're very proud of these comments. I also learned a huge amount and ended up doing things I never thought possible, all while being supported by a community of volunteers and the leadership team. Community is such a key word for us there. That's great that they feel that. My orientation was great. I felt able to ask questions when I needed more information, and I left the session feeling informed and excited to get started. Again, asking questions, we really welcome people asking questions the whole time, and that's so important. Mandy was very reassuring and made me feel that volunteering was much more than just offering a few hours of my time, but that my time would directly help SWAN achieve its goals. I felt valued throughout. That one really touches me. That's lovely. I liked how flexible the orientation was. I'm looking forward to starting with SWAN. It's just great to know that we're on the right track. That was really important to us. What we observed is that volunteer experience was offering autistic women the opportunity to connect with one another and their community in a structured, task-based way, which is more accessible to many autistic women. Autism becomes a special interest, and there was an opportunity to spend time focusing on special interests, and it brought a lot of autistic joy. So the benefits of volunteering in the community are even higher than they might have been for neurotypical people. So we found a lot of the volunteers actually were recruited at the meetups themselves, assistant facilitators, for example, for people that were really enjoying being in that space and wanted to help develop it. There's a couple of examples here, the little SWAN teddy bear on the table, and we use that whenever we have the meetups so people know where to go meet up everybody else. And those books that you see, those books are bought by the volunteers. They can buy little books that they like the best and special pens. And we leave those on the table in the middle of every meetup. And people can sign in their feedback, comments, draw pictures even. And then at the end of the session, the volunteer takes that away and is able to read those comments. And that was something that, again, the volunteer team put together, those ideas, and I think it's brilliant. So we did face some challenges. I'd just like to discuss those briefly and how we go about facing up to those challenges. We did find the demand was huge for Meetup, more than I expected it to be. So, for example, we'd launch a Meetup in Glasgow, and then we'd find people were asking for up in North Scotland and the south of Scotland, and there was just huge demand and more demand than we could recruit for and train volunteers in time for and find venues. But now we have such a good structured format, we're able to do that a lot faster. Having a bank of volunteers ready to cover due to illnesses. So in the winter, obviously, when it's darker and the weather's not so nice, we just needed to make sure that we had a backup plan in place. We are actually developing a wellbeing questionnaire at the moment for volunteers, so we can discuss how we can help them if they feel overwhelmed at any time. And this wellbeing questionnaire will be used in future reviews to allow us to understand how we can better support our volunteers outside of the role. And that's a big project of work that's ongoing at the moment. So I'd just like to briefly touch on some of our achievements, because we're very proud of these here at SWAN. So as I say this today, and this is going to grow in the next couple of weeks, we have 26 active volunteers. We have 8 in-person groups across Scotland and 2 online groups, and they're all run by volunteers. We have an average of 67 people attending each group at the moment, each month. And over 300 emails were answered by our volunteer team in 2022, asking for signposting and advice. These are some of the amazing comments that we get back about the actual groups that the volunteers share with us. Thank you for another great meetup. Thank you for providing a safe space for myself and other Spectrum women. I had an amazing afternoon, and it was so nice to finally meet more women as quirky as me. I love that I can come to somewhere where people understand and accept me. It's the first time I have laughed in months. Glad I came. And it's so lovely that the volunteers get to read these comments after every group as well. So this leads us to a very proud moment for here at SWAN. As I said, we're always very proud of our volunteers, but to get this was so amazing for the volunteer team as well. We were very happy in December to be awarded the Volunteer Friendly Award from Volunteering Scotland. In the picture there, you can see me having a bad headache, I don't mind saying it, and Joanne Ray from Volunteering Scotland in the middle, and Lindsay, our CEO of SWAN, accepting that award. And we were so happy because we had done all this work to redesign the whole process. So to have that work recognised by Volunteer Scotland was amazing. On the evaluation, they put something lovely. They said, I commend the outstanding volunteering at SWAN and the dedication of SWAN volunteers that is so well outlined in the Volunteer Friendly Award submission. The evidence of SWAN's dedication to volunteers, best practice in volunteer involvement, continuous improvement, and sustained excellence in volunteering. We can't say more than how proud we were, and thank you to Volunteer Scotland for that. It was amazing that they saw that we had done a lot of work going back to the first stages and redesigning everything. And more importantly, I'd like to say a huge thank you to the Alliance, because without the Alliance, we couldn't have made all this possible. They've supported us the whole way, and it's been amazing. Thank you. If you would like to know more information about the work we do at SWAN, please have a look at our website, www.swanscotland.org, or drop us an email at info@swanscotland.org. Thank you very much for listening today.
Alliance Live. Health and Social Care Alliance Scotland, www.alliance-scotland.org.uk.